Easy guys, Dom here from Cringy Dad Gaming. So in this video I'll be doing a beginner's guide for Outriders. This is just to point out some of the core mechanics of the game and kind of help you decide on how you're going to progress in the game, especially if you are new. Once you've played through the first section of the game, which is some intro missions, you will get the chance to choose one of 4 skills, either that being Technomancer, Pyromancer, Trickster or Devastator. Now these all do have various different attack types and different abilities, and it really does depend on what your play style is, but I would recommend that if you are going to be playing solo to choose something like the Devastator, which is the tank, and it will give you things like extra armor abilities and the ability to be able to deflect bullets. Choosing the right skill for your playstyle is quite important early on, because if you're going to be playing solo and you're going to be finding it a little bit difficult at higher world tiers, you haven't really got the opportunity to be able to switch this mid-game. Next up, we're just going to briefly talk about world tiers. Now the world tier levels will automatically level up as you level up unless you switch it off. But these will increase things like loot and the chance of things like epic and legendary weapons and armor dropping. It will also though increase the level of your enemies, and usually they're +3 levels higher than you, which means it can start becoming a little bit of a challenge. If you don't want that challenge, you can switch off auto level up for world tier as I've mentioned, but also switch it to an easier or harder level at your will. But one thing to note is if you do get up to some of these higher world tiers, you will get some epic and legendary items as rewards as you start getting to those higher world tiers. So it is worth pushing yourself if you can to get to those higher world tiers to be able to get that better loot. Now there are plenty of traders within the game, and the currency system currently is scrap, which you will sometimes get as rewards from playing the game, but also from selling weapons and items. However, it is really important to mention to you that if you sell an item, you're not able to break it down. Now, the main important thing about breaking down items is every time you break down an item, not only will you get things like leather and iron, which you can use for upgrading weapons, you'll also learn the mod that is connected to that specific weapon or armor. Now these mods can then be fitted into other weapons and armor, which we're going to take a look at in a minute. So it really is a matter of really being careful with what you sell and what you break down. So yes, selling will give you money to be able to buy better weapons and armor, but sometimes you may have a decent piece of armor or a decent weapon that you just need to put a better mod in, and we're going to take a look at that now. So Dr. Zahedi, he will give you the option from your camp to be able to upgrade your weapons and armor. So here you just choose the specific type of weapon or armor that you want to upgrade, and by clicking on it we'll add it to the section in the crafting menu in the middle. If you take a look here, some items will have 2 slots on them if you get them up to that kind of epic level loot, and by clicking on the mods here it gives you from tier 1 to tier 3 mods. If you've broken down a piece of armor or a weapon that has that specific mod, you will have learnt it, and that allows you then to add these to a specific slot for the leather, which you get for breaking down clothing. Here you'll be able to increase stats on not only your main skills that you'll unlock as you play through the game, but also some that will give you buffs to weapons, healing, and also things like shields that will generate from shooting enemies. But one of the main things here is to be able to upgrade things like attributes on weapons, and also upgrade the overall damage of the weapon as well. So here we've got this assault rifle here, and we can improve its rarity if we have enough titanium, but we can also upgrade attributes from using shards. This will increase some of the status effects that you have on the weapon. So in this instance we could upgrade status power, healing received from killing enemies, and weapon leech. In the mods here we can switch that over as I've mentioned before. I really do like this mod here that we've got on this particular assault rifle, which is Mark of the Stake. which once reloading after hitting an enemy will inflict burn on them, which can sometimes interrupt their attacks and also stop them in their tracks while they're trying to put this fire out. It can be a real handy mod to have on your weapon, especially when you're coming up against large groups of enemies. I would recommend trying out a few different mods to really enhance your play style, but bear in mind that different enemies will react to different mods, and sometimes you will need to be constantly switching this up. Now, one thing you can do here for iron, you can upgrade the overall level of a weapon, increasing all its stats and firepower. This is really important to keep an eye on as you play through the game, because you might have a decent weapon, but as you start coming up against harder enemies, it may not be up to scratch. So it is a good thing to go into this from time to time and level up your weapons. There is a max cap on what you can level up some of these weapons to, so just keep an eye on this as you're playing to make sure that you're not playing at a lower level to what you could potentially be if you was to upgrade the weapons or armor. So throughout the game you will find different rarity of items, being weapons and armor. These could be something that have been dropped by a boss, found in a loot cache, or given to you as a reward for completing a mission. They start off from common and go up to unusual, rare, epic, and then finally legendary. These will all have increased stats as they go up that ladder of rarity, and you will also find that some of these items will have extra mod slots to be able to add more mods. Now, from your inventory menu here, where you'd see all your weapons and armor, you will have a few other things such as your journal, which you can go through, which will give you lore as you find journals throughout the game. You can also choose different quests here. Now, early on in the game, you may have the option to be able to farm different missions over and over again because you can replay them. So if you do find a mission that has given you some decent rewards, then you can just keep playing it and you may get some decent loot drops. You can also switch over your skills here as well, and you will unlock new skills as you level up in the game, and you may also need to swap these over at certain points. So if you're coming up against some marauders, then you may want something like reflect bullets as an example, which will allow you to put up a shield barrier to stop bullets and then firing back at enemies. But things like the armor with the golem and other things like this are pretty much going to be powers that are going to work all round, depending on if you're fighting against monsters or human enemies. I tend to find that swapping these over before battle is quite helpful, but you can swap these over mid-battle if you want as well. But next we've got your class skills, and these will increase things like, you know, your armor piercing and the overall weapon damage, how much healing you may receive, depending on which route you go to. Now, I mentioned armor piercing there, but it is quite important to keep an eye on some of the armor piercing that you get, some of the buffs you get on weapons and also armor, because you will come up against some heavily armored enemies in this game, and having a higher armor piercing will make it easier to kill them. So you'll know which enemies have armor because it will show you the armor symbol above their health, and as I've mentioned, having the armor piercing ability on a piece of armor or a weapon will really increase how quickly you can get that armor down to be able to kill them. Some enemies, especially on the higher world tiers, can seem a little bit bullet spongy, so this is something that you should take note of. But you too can also get a shield. There is a few mods that can do this, and one of them at tier 1 is Shield Maiden, which will generate a shield that builds up for every shot that you hit an enemy with. It does degrade over time or when you get hit, but this really can help you in some tough spots. So by putting this mod on a piece of armor or a weapon could be the difference between living or dying. Then last and not least, here we do have things like vehicle customization, and these are just some little added extras where you can change the look and color of your vehicle, your own personal banner, and also things like emotes. And that's pretty much it, guys. I think that's kind of got you into the core of what you need to be keeping an eye on and what you need to do to be able to increase things like your weapon levels and upgrade gear. If this has helped you get started in Outriders, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Watch this space for more Outriders, and I'll catch you guys on another video. Thanks for watching.